Hey everyone, my name is Jason Filer, and I'm very excited to welcome you to another episode of The Afterglow. In this barbershop interview series, we don't only talk to quartets, we also talk to creators who shape the barbershop sound from behind the scenes. For today's episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by acclaimed arranger Anthony Bartholomew.
We can't hear ya. Okay, well that wasn't bad. The next part's modified.
We hope to show that we are happiness personified, but please don't sing along.
We'll get disqualified. And if that were to happen, we'd be mortified, horrified,
And we'd be kind of mad.
and that's the opposite of happy. If you're happy and you know it.
As a barbershop arranger, Anthony has helped bring countless songs to life, crafting charts that challenge singers both musically and comedically. His work has become widely known in the barbershop world for its use in high-level comedic performances, and there's really no one who does it like he does. Today we'll talk about his arranging process, his influences, and what really makes a comedy barbershop arrangement come to life. So, sit back and relax, there's no reason to wait any longer. Let's dive into the mind behind the music. Here's Anthony Bartholomew. How's it going? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing great, thanks. Which camera should I look in? That one that you were at, or this one?
You get straight up. You can look straight up.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So you heard a little bit about him, but we'll talk about kind of his journey and talk through a lot of arranging stuff, especially and him in terms of singing and all the stuff you want to know about him. So first of all, how'd you get into singing in the first place? Any sort of singing at all?
Oh man, my first stage experience was well, it was a play I was in second grade, but that doesn't count. But then I really got into it like in high school, and it was it was almost mandatory that we had to join choir because I think none of us knew how to project or how to how to speak or how to talk loudly and on a stage, and we weren't mic'd up. We were kind of at this, we didn't even have a theater. We had like a multi-purpose center. So, our theater teacher was like, you have to get into singing. But and this was like my senior year of high school, and I fell in love with it because I was like, oh, I don't think I realized like what harmonies and stuff like that were. It was like, oh, these people are singing completely different notes than the ones I'm singing, and it makes this really cool thing. And then there was like a whole music theory aspect to it that was kind of like analytical and mathematical. And I fell in love with that stuff too. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could. Um, even when I wasn't doing the actual singing. And but the problem with that is like I didn't find that until, yeah, it was my senior year, or the second semester of my senior year. And before I knew it, I was out of high school. And I was like, where am I going to sing? And that's when I first found my first like barbershop group. And this was in El Paso, and it's the El Paso border quarters. And because they were on the border, or they still are on the border. And they were the 1964 international champions. And I wasn't there for that. This was back in 2005. This was well after the
Just
championship,
missed it.
but I barely missed it by like 39 years at that point. So that's okay. No, 41. Oh, what a dummy. Can you edit that? We were talking about editing. Can you go ahead and edit that back in?
Yeah, we'll change that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So yeah, I was gonna ask, and what got you explicitly drawn to barbershop itself? I know you joined that course. What was it about the course that made you think I gotta, do this for longer and and you're still doing it today?
There was something I knew about barbershop. I didn't know anything about barbershop except like there was a quartet that came by to visit us at the choir. Um, and I remember like trying to watch and listen to the individual, watch their mouths and listen to like the individual people and like, oh, I can pick out that like again, this was like my first exploration into harmony. And it's like, oh, they are all doing different things, but this sounds way different than what we were doing in choir, which was already pretty cool to me at the time. It still is. And I remember like Homer's Barbershop Quartet and The Simpsons, and then I just remember seeing it in different elements of pop culture. And so I was like, I need to, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't know anything about it. I just want to try this out. And I just, I don't even know if, yeah, I guess Google is around. I just did a Google search for barbershop groups near me, and somehow this thing popped up. A bunch of guys that never heard of a website in their life. I don't know how this showed up, but I found the rehearsal schedule. I found like where they were going to be. It was actually near my college at the time. And so I could drop by after school, like on a Tuesday night. And yeah, I showed up, and it was one guy who was my age, another guy who was about 10 years older than that, and then 20 other guys that were 30 years older than that. And I was like, whatever this is, it's really charming. And I think they were excited to see some 18-year-old. They're like, oh, what? So who do you know? Like, who are you related to here? Whose son are you? And I'm like, no, I just found this. And they were blown away by that. They're like, that doesn't happen. There's no such thing as recruitment or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think just showing up. And so they were real like, we got to teach you a tag and, you know, come sing this part with us and whatever. And then by the time we got through that, like by the time we got through the end of the night, I was hooked. They had given me an application, a form to fill out, and that was it. And then I filled it out and turned it in the next week, and I became a member. It wasn't even like, and that's the thing. It was like it's a smaller chorus. Um, it's at the time, and so it wasn't even like um, just a super specialized course, but it was just enough to get me hooked on. Oh, I could be part of this. And you start feeling whenever you sing like your first tag and all that, and you start feeling it in your mouth, and you can kind of feel the vibrations, and everything just sounds and feels weird. And I think that's how a lot of people get hooked. And that's me too.
Hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you found that. I'm glad that that website got made somehow. Um,
No, me too. It's not there anymore. I've looked.
oh.
I've looked since then. I'm like, surely this is out. Yeah, it's gone. I don't know.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, past that, you've now joined a chorus. What got you into, what made you join a first quartet and make you want to start actually competing and that kind of thing?
Oh man, like I, I want to say it was within a month. One of the guys that was there, he was like, "You're gonna sing. Let's be in a quartet." And I was like, "Sounds awesome. This is the thing I know more about," which was also nothing. But when you think of barbershop and you don't know anything about barbershop, you don't think about choruses. You think about quartets. And I was like, "That sounds great. I would love to do this." And he pulled the other two young guys, and he was like, "We're in a quartet now." I was like, That's great." And we would rehearse, and it was awesome. And I was like, "So what do we do from here?" They're like, "We can compete." I'm like, "Great. I would love to go get 13th place out of 19 quartets and not qualify for district." And that's exactly what we did. I would love to get the novice quartet award competing against nobody. And that's what happened. That's what happened. We got the plaques, like they showed us the plaques before we went on stage. They're like, "We'll hand these to you like after the results." Like, that's great. Like, so we don't have to do anything. I feel like my plaque's up here somewhere. Oh, it's in the other room. I should have had it ready for this. Okay, so
Yeah.
my quartet was your two, 2007 Southwest Division Southwestern District Novice Quartet Champion,
Wow.
which I
And
feel
that's
like
something they
with
can
that
never take away from you.
and they've tried. I feel like with that many words in an award, they can hand something like that to everybody. There was only 19
Yeah.
quartets. I'm sure everybody got something that year, but we
Yeah.
were one of them.
Yeah. That's hilarious. It reminds me of your the titles when you're emceeing the the quartet contest or whatever, and it's like a million words. Those are always
I
fun to
think
read.
I think I get a lot of that. I think that was the catalyst for a lot of that stuff because I'm always laughing about some of these awards and I get it too because when I won that thing, like won that thing, but like when I got that plaque, that was like the biggest deal to me, because I was hoping nobody else would sign up. And if they did, I was hoping they would be like not as good as us. We scored like a 55, which if you're not a barbershopper and you're watching this, that's like passable. It's not an F like in school, but it's like you can go up there and sing in public and people will think it's charming.
Mhm.
And so it was fine. It was a fine score, but it's hard to get much lower than that. Unless you're trying. And we weren't trying. We were trying to do better than that.
Sure,
But
naturally.
yeah, it's like so but yeah, I laugh at some of those awards and then I always make fun of just like the North Southern Division, Triple A. Oh, that was another thing. Like our chorus was like the double A novice, most improved chorus or whatever that year. And it's like, so I just love long names. I love the long titles. I try not to take that stuff terribly seriously. We one time broke the BHS system with trying to register a quartet that I did for fun. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and it was the Southwestern District of Champions, Fellas for Harmony, and the Fours because there are four of us. And that with all the little apostrophes and quotation marks and stuff like that was exactly 100 characters or 99 characters because there was a max at the time at like in the old system when you could register. And I think they called us up even and they're like, is this your full name? I'm like, yeah. They're like, is that what you want? I'm like, if you're gonna let it be, then yeah, let me do it.
Yeah.
And then this was, and then a few years later, like during COVID, um, when like the contests were coming back, we didn't end up doing it because they ended up canceling the contest again because of like one of the variants again. But then me and some friends registered Saturday Saturdays for the boys. I'm gonna mess this up. Obviously, there's too many words. Saturday is no, Saturday is three the boys, and there and there has to be nine Z's, and the three should be a four. That's a typo. That's not exactly how it was, but it was well over 100 characters. But there was like a new system that they were using to register, so there was no limit. There was no limit on the characters. They called me again. They were like, first of all, super funny. Second of all, we have to put a cap on this. I'm like, can you register the name? They're like, yeah. So they sent us the membership cards. And have you been in a quartet before? Like, have you registered a
Yeah.
quartet before? So you've gotten the paper that it's like the regular size paper and then the membership card you can peel out.
Hmm.
And it's got the name in the middle, but they put the name all the way across, so it goes beyond the membership card. And even then it goes to like a second line, which I think that one even went across. So if you pull out the membership card, it's just like the boys and the of us. Something like that. Something awful like that. So I cherish that pretty good. And then I think after that I went and looked and they put a cap, but the cap is still like at 100 characters. So you can do whatever you want.
Hmm.
Well, not whatever you want, but you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You
The
also have
point
the
is
one,
like the
oh
point
yeah,
is you
what were
should
you gonna
break
say?
the system as much as you can.
Yeah.
I
I
shouldn't
like
be encouraging that, but that's okay.
I like the one where I think you mic tested for the Southwestern District in
Yes.
2024 with like we're like almost runway but not and we're just having fun mic testing or something like that.
Not quite runway. Not quite runway. But we're here to my test. Let's all have a great contest. You hear? Yeehaw.
Oh
Something
right, yeah,
Texas like
yeehaw.
that, something like that. And they put it in like that. I think in the score sheet it says like not quite. No, because we were mic testing, so it wasn't in the
Right.
score sheet. But they had to register us still, so we could get like a score because we just wanted to see.
Hmm.
And I think on that thing it just says not quite runway dot dot dot. Like
Oh yeah, and that's what it says in the YouTube video title too, I think. And then in the description it has the whole quartet, I think. Something like that.
that's funny. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
As long as they let us do it, like I'm gonna keep doing it. At some point they have to say, look, your quartet has to be less than 6 words long. But until they do, oh well.
Yeah. That'd be very few for you. I don't know how you're gonna make that work.
Yeah, that's not a lot of words
Yeah, it's not very many.
in my world.
Yeah. So I saw the vocal majority perform uh, two times in this past year, and I wanted to know just sort of how you got involved with them in the first place.
Oh man, that was part of the lore of well barbershop in general, but when I had joined the El Paso group, it's just like, oh, you gotta see this group. It's the vocal majority, and they're like the best. And I'm like, sounds awesome. Like, how big are they? They're like 7 or 8 times as big as us. I'm like, that seems impossible, or whatever. And so my very first barbershop anything was District in 2005 in San Antonio, and we were competing there. And they're like, you're not gonna believe it. We're gonna get to see the VM. And I watched them, and of course, I was absolutely destroyed, just blown away. And even and my buddy who had seen him before, I think he did like a harmony. He's just been in a couple years, but he'd already done like harmony explosion camps and stuff. So he'd been pretty versed with it. He was like, um, when they started doing Joshua for the Battle of Jericho, he was like, wait till the end. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And then they get to the end, and the lights go down, and uh, my heart's pounding out of my chest. And I'm like, whatever this is, I want to, like, this is the level of the thing that I want to do at some point. But I still loved what I was doing with like my small chorus. And so when I graduated high school, no, college. Yeah, college. When I graduated college, um, had an offer at American Airlines in Dallas because that's where their headquarters is.
Mm.
And then I had some offer somewhere else, and I was like, obviously, I'm going to go to Dallas because that's where the vocal majority is. And also, I have a job there, and in this job market, it's like impossible. So I can kill two birds with one stone. And I moved couple months later, or whatever, and I got there that Sunday and that Thursday, and I started working Monday, and then that Thursday I went to a VM rehearsal, and that was the first of the three I needed in order to have an audition and pass my audition. And that was 15 years ago, and I get more and more excited about it every week still. Like the competitions, the shows, just the camaraderie, the singing. It's awesome. It's been great to be a part of. And I went that first night, and Jim Clancy comes up to me and he goes, "I could tell by your smile you're a barbershop." He said something along the lines of like you're a barbershopper, that you barbershop before. I go, "Yeah, I've done like HU. I've been in a lot of I'm such a diehard fan or whatever." He was like, "Well, keep it up." And I'm like, "Yes, sir. I'll do whatever you say, sir, as long as you love me." But Jim, just anybody will tell you he has that effect on people. He's had that effect on people for probably his entire life, but at least in the barbershop world for 50 something years. Just makes you feel like you're the only person in the room. And that's how I felt. And it felt genuine. And I to this day do feel it genuinely. Didn't feel like it was just something to make this guy feel good, and hopefully he'll come back to the chorus and we'll go. Like he was just like connecting with me. And I saw him even looking at me one time when he was directing a song or whatever. And then I directed Keep the Whole World Singing that night, and um, that blew my mind. And so I was like, of course, I'm going to continue my barbershop journey here. Like this is a no-brainer. Everything I'll do for the foreseeable future is going to be scheduled around Thursday night. And it was,
Right.
I remember like I had just started that job, and they're like, "Oh, we'll have a happy hour for the new hires. We'll do it on Thursday." And I was like, "I can go, but I have a hard out at 6:15 or whatever." They're like, what do you have to be? You just moved here." I'm like, "I have this thing." And that was the first Thursday. I had left early. Everybody else was drinking or whatever, and meeting the other new hires that started that week. And I was like, "I gotta go to this singing thing." Like, okay. And that's been my Thursday nights ever since then.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Well, that's a great story, and it was really great to see all the tributes to him this year at the International. That was super special, and
It
to
it
hear
really
Greg talk
was,
about that
man.
at the championship thing, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was it's an awful loss. And there are people that knew him way better and way longer than I did. But you feel that loss even just again, even just when you talk to him, or meet him, you feel like you're the only person in the room, or you feel like you've been friends for a long time or whatever. And so I think that's what, besides the legacy of the VM and of Jim Clancy, um, I think that has something to do with like the amount of people that are affected because, you know, if I pass away, some guy I just met at a chorus rehearsal is not going to know about it, but some guy that Jim just met is going to feel like totally connected to that. And the timing was such that, okay, if we go and win, we'll have an opportunity to, in any case, we'll go and, we'll dedicate this contest run to him. And it'll be the first time we're back in several years. And I think people recognize that because we certainly do. The chorus certainly did. And then if we win, then we'll try to do like this slideshow tribute. Um, and we just got to watch it for the first time last night because we didn't get to see like all the pictures and stuff. And they
Yeah.
open with this picture of him from, I don't know, he looks like he's 3 or 4 or 5. That would have been in I forget exactly would it be 30s or 40s? I guess it would have been the 40s by that time. And it's just magical. It's like, oh my gosh, that's this man, this this monster of a personality and man has been around our presence for decades. And you don't realize it until you kind of see some of these really old photos as they get older and older. But just seeing some of these as they start off, like this guy was also just a child, like the rest of us at some point. It was fascinating to watch, very moving to get to watch it. We got to watch that
Oh
back last
yeah.
night. The chorus did, and it was really special to be part of that. So it was nice to be able to share in that with just like the rest of the barbershop audience too, who were anticipating, I think anticipating the VM coming back, but also like, oh, they all knew like Jim's past and what's that going to be like and how's that going to affect the energy in the room and what the VM brings. And it was all an interesting timing of things.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well, it was a really great experience, and uh, I hope that we get to. I wonder if they'll release. Well, they'll probably release that at some point. Maybe the whole thing with a slideshow. I hope that they would. I think that'd be a cool thing for everyone
I
to
hope
see.
so too. Yeah, I feel
Um,
like they normally have like the Saturday night show stuff with the slideshow. I'm sure it takes a little extra or whatever, but I hope they do. Yeah, I think that'll be
yeah,
really special.
and it was great in the hall and everything. Of course, obviously, having the
Yeah, that's
audience
great.
there to receive it all was awesome. So,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you what obviously you sang with VM this past convention, and we're a part of all that. So I wanted to ask, kind of on a more lighthearted note, what is that process like of doing that combined with the live stream stuff for you? Like, what is that responsibility set like for a week like that?
It's busy. It's super busy, but the live stream itself is just busy. It's
Hmm.
just because you're there. Like we have kind of like the two like anchor hosts. Like last couple of years, it's been me and Debbie Cleveland,
Hmm.
and before that, it would be like three. So you're spreading out the the load a little more, but they've gone to two, and then we kind of bring in the guest hosts, and so you can kind of rotate, and you get some time to go and watch the contest or nap or whatever. But even still, like that, even still with that, you're there anytime there's a contest session going on. You're on, you're more or less behind on camera, and that's a lot of time, but I like it. I like it a
Hmm.
lot. Like I know it's kind of like work, and they've told me before. I think when I first started doing it, they're like, just so you know, like you're here, this is work, you're going to be here, you're going to be, and I'm like, okay, I get it. But I like it because I'm watching the whole contest. Like the sound is still really good where we are.
Okay.
And at any point I can, when it gets to the intermission and it's not my turn anymore, I could just walk right to the stage and go watch the next session or whatever. And I get to see everybody. Like I get to see all the quartets and get to run into all of them, and just get to talk to them, even if just for a couple minutes or whatever. And, I like doing that a lot, but then combining that with like the chorus rehearsals that VM puts together, because we get there and we have three or four scheduled, and then I think we ended up doing three. And they're pretty good about scheduling like not during the other contest sessions because they know like people either are competing, like Clutch, for example, and
Sure.
Opus 4. We have some quartets represent Studio Talk that are representing
Hmm.
VM. And so rather than saying, all right, we're gonna be there 8 hours a day, just locking in the rest of the contest be damned, like all our stuff is like in between those little pockets, and if you have other things, then you might have to try to balance that or whatever. But in terms of the contest, you could do that. So that fits real nicely within like the webcasting schedule, except for me for um like so we went first in the second session on
Hmm.
Friday,
Yeah.
and the first session I was scheduled to do the interviews and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So right when that ends, I check and see what time it is. The guys have already met. Like they're already at the call at the Sheridan, which is a mile away.
Yeah.
And I don't want to walk. I'm already dressed more or less. Like I wasn't trying to, I asked our wardrobe team, I was like, can I wear our suits? I have one less suit to bring. They're like, can you do it without the pink shirt and the vest and the brooch, just to like not really give anything. Not like it's a major secret, but it's like, let's just reveal that all at once. I'm like, sure. Can I just have the blue suit? I'll just put on a white shirt or something like that. So I'm already kind of in it, but it's Denver and it's pretty comfortable, but all doing all that walking, and I'm not used to that elevation. I don't think anybody was, and that
Yeah.
dryness, like I was sweating. And so I took an Uber back to the thing, and then so I'd go from here back to the Sheridan, right back to where I came from, so that I can kind of be in the pattern with the guys.
Hmm.
And as soon as we finish, we walk over to the webcast. They do their interview, like Greg Clancy does the interview, and Phil. And when that's done, uh, I think we went and watched a couple more choruses, and then I went right back on to do the rest of
Hmm.
the second half of the chorus session. So there was a lot of like just timing and asking for leeway from
Yeah.
both the webcast team and the VM team, like just be like, hey, I'm going to be late to this, or can I do my makeup at the hotel or something like that, so I could just be ready. And they
Yeah.
didn't have nobody had to grant me any of that stuff. They could have just been like, you have to do one or the other. But everybody
Yeah.
was pretty graceful about that. Like gave me a lot of grace for that. But it made for a busy week, man. It was, but I like it. Again, I think it's cool. Like I think it's cool to be involved at international. I think anybody that goes and they would say the same thing. They're like, well, I want to go to the HU classes. I want to watch all the events. I want to take some time to meet up with some friends I haven't seen in a long time and sing tags or whatever. It's like you should be. You spend all the money to be there. Like be busy. Like
You're right,
take
exactly.
take advantage of it. Sleep when you get home. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does seem like you have a lot of fun. That's for sure.
It's a
Um,
blast, man. It really is because it can just, webcasting can be a lot of just like, what's your name and what's your voice part. And for the most part, like you have to get that stuff out there because
right.
this might be someone's first time on the international stage, much less first time being interviewed. Um, and they want to be able to talk and talk about themselves, or they want to say hi to their chorus at home
Hmm.
or their parents or whatever. And you have to give time for that, especially because you only have like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but it also has to be, you also have to balance that with like just being able to have a conversation and being able to have fun and like enjoy yourselves. And that we kind of, I guess that kind of gets reserved a little bit for the second and third rounds
Hmm.
because by then the quartets that are in the semifinals, okay, we heard the name and your voice part. Um, we know who your coaches are at Thing. So can we just talk about stuff? Can we just have the
Yeah.
conversation? Those are my favorite ones to get to do. Not just semifinals, like at any round. But
Hmm.
anytime where I can just talk to the people, like that's what I really enjoy doing about the webcasting.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, and it looks great. So you went and sang with VM, and then the same session came back and did more of the live streaming.
The same session I came back, I'm thinking about it more now. Same session we came back, Debbie and I think Rick Taylor were still interviewing. And then when they got to the intermission, which was some amount of quartets later, because we were the first in that section, then we switched back off
Okay.
and then I think it was me and Rick Taylor. And the reason we did that is because if you think about it, you're like, oh, I'm just interviewing for one. Um, what am I trying to say? Oh, I'm just competing in one session, but it's
Hmm.
like, well, there's the before and the after of all that, and then you don't want to just put a burden on anyone else to cover for you. So I try to like mix and match. So there were a couple sessions where I just went through the whole thing so that I can make up for the time that I'm missing from here and there. But in that case, all that to say, like in that case, once the intermission was done, I just went back. I changed. I think I actually stayed in the VM outfit at that point and just did the rest of the interviews after that,
Hmm.
which was kind of cool, too, because you can see like you get to see you get to watch a lot of the rest of the contest. I know a lot of people
Hmm.
don't like to watch the contests that they're competing in, the quartets or the choruses. They don't want to get psyched out or whatever. I just don't care. It just doesn't bother
Yeah.
me. Like I just like it so much. I like barbershop so much. I just want to watch it,
Right.
even if it's people I'm going up against you know, that, that's why we're there. That's why we're
Hmm.
there to do that. So I particularly enjoy just getting right back into the fray and getting back into the contest. So
Yeah. Cool. So I wanted to ask, people know you a lot of the time as an arranger, and so I wanted to ask how you kind of got your start in barbershop arranging, or if there's somewhere else you started arranging before you did barbershop.
um no, I think when I started getting into barbershop, I kind of talked a little bit earlier about how I really liked the left brain or the whichever brain, the left brain and the analytical side and
Hmm.
the theory and the key signatures. And I got a couple books on that. It's like The Idiot's Guide to Music Theory, Volume 2. I just happen to remember that. I got it at a Barnes and Noble. And I use that to teach me just a lot about like what are the key signatures? What is the time signature? What am I looking at when I think I'm reading these songs off this music and I'm trying to sight read or I don't even know what it is I'm doing. And what are the chords? And then I went to like Harmony University and they had like the barbershop theory classes and then just kind of like they were all like music theory classes but they were through the lens of barbershop
Sure.
which which really specializes it but I think makes it a lot for me it was a lot more fun to learn and they had all the little books you can buy at the Harmony Marketplace the theory of barbershop what is it the theory of barbershop harmony and then of course the barbershop arranger's manual which is thousands of pages and
Yeah.
45 years old. And I just realized like I need to do barbershop so much that I cannot wait until once a week when I have a chorus or a quartet to do this with. So I need to find a way to be able to do this on my own.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about multi-tracking. That was barely kind of starting to get into it. And I saw that people had like microphones like yours. And I was like, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on this, but I can pirate some engraving software and teach myself to arrange.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I got into it. So I started with tags, I think like a lot of people do. And then I started with, Christmas song examples that you could find, that where there's no copyright. So it's easy to find sheet music and
Right.
then just try to arrange stuff like that. And then I would get into it and then I would get bored because I wasn't perfect right away. And then I would drop it for a couple of years and then I would get back into it. And it just kind of depended, it kind of ebbed and flowed until I started, um, just getting a little bit more serious about it and realizing, oh, okay, I can put I think the first thing I ever did was like the Family Guy theme song. It just lends itself to barbershop role, all that
Yeah.
jazzy Seth MacFarlane stuff. And it had a lot of seventh chords, or if it didn't, you could add them in without, thinking too hard about it. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
could do a full song now.
Hmm.
I could do, and then after that, I think I did Winter Wonderland, which has like cool borrowed keys in there, depending
Yeah.
on what, in the bridges and all that. And I was like, oh, okay, I get this, and I can transition into kind of different keys, and this song's a little longer than Family Guy or whatever. And
Yeah.
so the more I started doing that, that was like, okay, I can take on bigger and bigger projects, and
Hmm.
I still reference um, it's like the online barbershop arranging manual that Chris Lewis put on. It's like on medium.com. It's just somewhere you can like write your own article. But he went into such in-depth interactive details. And that thing's awesome and it's free. And I
Hmm.
still go back and check like how do I harmonize this note? Like all the time.
Yeah.
Especially just weird stuff that I run into. Um, that's what I like. That's the other thing I like about arranging is it's problem solving. It's a puzzle for a lot of it too, before you get into like um the real creativity side of it. Well, you do use some creativity to solve some of those problems too. Like
Hmm.
how do you harmonize these notes while kind of still making it sound like barbershop or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things I like about barbershop arranging is the constraints that you're kind of given in order to make it sound like barbershop. Like
Yeah.
you can always do four-part harmony and your melodies on an inside voice and kind of call it barbershop, but to really make it sound like it, you have to follow these constraints a little bit. And for me, it's like I run into analysis paralysis so easily. So if I'm just doing something just a cappella or whatever, or something that's not strictly barbershop, I feel like it takes me longer because now I'm faced with hundreds of options for each little thing I can do. I don't like that. I don't want all the options. I
Right.
want to do what's right or not. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
I've definitely found that a lot. I think for anyone, if anyone's listening and has done other kind of, vocal music arranging, especially or anything else, like I found a huge love to barbershop arranging just because like it's like a nice like puzzle. It's very neat a lot of the time, especially if you're doing like
Right.
contestable stuff. Like, if you have a melody and you have like a chord progression, there are only so many options you have. So and like you
Right.
feel like which one you like, and then if you choose one chord, the next chord a lot of the time you might not have any option except for one, just because the way the
Yes.
voices work. So it's a nice feeling. Then when you sort of like understand it more, it gets like quicker and more and really fun. So yeah, if anyone's watching wants to try it, you should try it. It's very
Do
fun.
barbershop arranging. It's so easy. I'm
Yeah.
kidding, but it's like it makes a lot of sense too. And you're totally right about like when you solve one problem, sometimes that forces you into certain directions, which can be a blessing and a curse. Sometimes I want that, but then if I have a repeat of that section and I realize I have I'm kind of forced in the same direction. It's like, well, is that going to get tired? Is that going to get
Yeah.
boring? One great piece of advice I had gotten from Kirk Young by way of Steve Tramack was arrange backwards. So
Mhm.
kind of like, how do you want to
Yeah.
end this particular section, or where do you want that to be? What's the voicing, and is it high or is it low? And then go where you are, where you're stuck, and then try to connect the dots in order to get to that ending. And a lot of times you'll find like there are only a few different ways to kind of get there, as opposed to hundreds of different ways. And then as you arrange and you go forward and you realize, well, this isn't really where I anticipated this would go. So if
Mhm.
you have kind of an endpoint in mind, a lot of times you can connect the dots to get there. So arrange backwards. Um, Not exactly backwards. Like I don't start with the last chord of the tag and then go all the way to the front. I feel like that would be a cool challenge,
Yeah.
but I won't do it.
For $57, 57 cents a month, I'll do that on a YouTube live. Go live stream and arrange backwards.
This
Um,
this Patreon thing's really working out for you.
yeah,
It's not
that's
gonna pay
great.
any bills, but you're gonna get to do some fun things.
That's true. I'll pay a few bills. I'll pay like a candy bar bill. That's a thing. I'll,
Oh yeah, you have like a monthly candy bar subscription.
yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's delicious.
Um, it's fine. They're not great. Like 57 cents these days.
Oh my God,
Um,
everything's.
um, yeah. So I that's cool to hear about. It's cool how you got that start. So I was wondering, a lot of the time people hear your stuff through the Newfangled Four. So I
Mhm.
want to sort of hear how did that relationship start? You've done quite a few arrangements for them now, over the past few years, and like what was that process like at the beginning of it?
Oh man, I had only arranged a couple charts for like some international groups by then. By the time I had met the guys and everything like that, and we knew each other, and I knew like I loved their sense of humor. I loved what they were doing, but the stuff they were doing at the time wasn't comedic. It was Cottage for Sale and Cottage Small and other cottage type songs. And so but then the
They're a
year that
cottage
they
quartet.
yeah yeah, but then the year that they did a Newfangled Tango. I watched that and I was like, oh, I get it. If they start going this direction, um, we're going to be on the same wavelength for a lot of because we just have like the same sense of humor, I think.
Hmm.
I love those guys. I love the way they joke. I just love the humor they bring. And so seeing that kind of unlocked, and that was Patrick's arrangement. No, no, no. Yeah, that was Patrick's arrangement. And watching that, and I feel like the audience and the quartet were both just as surprised at how like massive that was turning into.
Yeah.
And when I saw that that's what they're doing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pitch something to them that's kind of funny, like something along those lines, because I bet they're gonna start doing some more comedic type things.
Hmm.
And I talked to them, and I think I'm sure you'll hear five or six different versions of the story. I think it was that I reached out to them and I said, I want to do something funny for you guys, and like, do you have any ideas? And I had been writing down some ideas because I think that was about the time I had already arranged If You're Happy and You Know It. And so
Hmm.
I knew like I wanted to just do kind of silly stuff that you don't see a lot of on the contest stage. So I had written down stuff and one of the ideas I was like, what about let's see, maybe they brought this up to me first, but I think I said, what about supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? And they go, sure. What about it? And I go, I think it'd be funny if none of you could pronounce the word. And they're like, okay. And they're like, what else? And I was like, I don't know. Can I just run with that for a little while? Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know, 3 or 6 or 30 months later, I don't arrange very fast. I had a draft for them and they changed a couple words in the intro, but outside of that, I think they pretty much did it as written. And that blew my mind because it was
Hmm.
like, oh, um, I get to ride on the coattails of something cool that's turning out to be with this quartet. And
Sure.
oh, this is also fun. I can make people laugh kind of cadentially, at certain
Yeah.
points, in the song without having to stop and tell a joke and mug the camera and then, um, do that thing where the quartets, they huddle up and then they look at, and they go, just 1 second. And then they talk and then you know what I mean? And then they go and do something kind of funny. It's like, oh, we could just kind of do this in time for the most
Hmm.
part. And that unlocked a lot of like, what I felt was like kind of like creativity for me, where I could that was one constraint I was happy to lift, which was that
Hmm.
it had to be taken super seriously, like the barbershop arranging, even at the contest level. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
this is by far obviously it's not even the first parody that's done. It's not the first funny quartet that's done. But for me, who was learning arranging and learning how to like try to make people laugh, and it's like, oh, I've got I've done one thing that has allowed me to meld the both of them. So now what? What's
Yeah.
what's the next thing I'm going to try to pitch to these guys?
Hmm.
Because they're going to let me do it. Like they're going
Yeah.
to, I don't have a quartet that's going international right now, so I'm just going to keep giving this to these guys until they stop asking for something
Yeah.
or stop answering my messages. I think that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah. Well, before we get into other stuff, I mean, you, it seems like from an outsider's perspective, that that kind of song was like a huge break for you and like a big deal to have you be able to arrange that for them. So was it very intentional that there's a part where they say your name in it and say that you arranged the song? Was that like a little meta marketing technique?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's in the original sheet music. I don't know if it was meant to be like a marketing thing, but I was like, if I love self-deprecating,
Hmm.
within reason.
Sure.
But I like it when it's like, a good, yeah, I don't know. I like it when it's when it lands well. And I knew that I could fit it in the rhyme scheme and the meter scheme, fit my name in there. And then it was like, okay, let's just see if people are on board with the quartets always make fun of each other and the baritone and the judges. And it's like, okay, go ahead and make fun of the arranger. Let's see what happens. And again, I'm sure it's not the uh, first song to ever do that, but it was like, I didn't mind being the butt
Yeah.
of that joke. And then for several years after that, even this international, I still get it's Anthony Bartholomew. I love it. Like I'm just like, oh, it's an audio meme. This is
Yeah.
great. That's funny,
Yeah.
I'd rather that be what's in people's heads when they see me than this freaking guy that's a stupid moron. And it's like, why would I make that lyric? It doesn't even,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, I'm glad it was something as benign as just saying my name, singing it in weird notes or whatever. I didn't expect it to be that. I just thought it would be funny to get my name mentioned on the contest stage, I think, in a
Yeah.
self-deprecating. So I don't know if I've retconned it as a marketing technique or not. I couldn't tell you now that I think about it, but it was definitely intentional in that like those are the words I put in there, and then they sang them that way.
Yeah. Nice. Well, speaking of that and the kind of, marketing and that kind of stuff, you seem to be one of the only arrangers who isn't kind of out there like, all the time being like, ask me for arrangements and, you're not arranging as much as a lot of the other people are. So is that like a kind of more intentional that, you kind of want to reserve it for the times when it's like, this is like a more special thing I can like sink my teeth into and not just doing some random like, up tune that someone asks for. Like what's kind of the intention behind that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. First of all, you're well, yeah, yes. It's first of all, it's funny you say that because I got one of those Facebook memories from like 10 years ago, and it's like, oh wow, just wrapped up this thing for this person and this thing for this person. What's next? Who's next? You are. And then, just kind of like marketing that or whatever. I don't think I realized until about then that it's like, oh, I don't do this fast. I don't have a lot of time to do this. Not that I'm like busy or important or anything. Um, the time it takes me to arrange, I'm just not fast. I'm just a slow arranger. I'm very meticulous. I'm always just trying to like, same thing with that analysis paralysis. Like that's not totally cured for me. So I'll be in there and I'll just be looking at a chord and I'll listen to it and I go, yeah, I think that's right. And it's not inefficient. It's not an efficient way. It is a very inefficient way of arranging, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And um, so I've had to, and I've committed to multiple groups that I've had to back out from, and it burns a bridge or it frustrates people, and that's an awful feeling. And so rather than just committing and then just not pulling through, just for the last many years, I just say I'm not really taking on much right now. I've got some groups in my queue, which is true. In fact, like some groups that I'm getting to now, I've talked to over the last couple of years, and they're like, "What can you fit me? When can you fit us in?" And I go, I really like this song idea. I really like this project idea. I don't know, and I don't think it'll be for this international, but can we look at it for next international if you're still
Hmm.
interested?
Yeah.
So I've got like 5 or 6 groups or songs that I really want to do. But even then, I don't know that I'll get them all done for St. Louis, for example, for international
Hmm.
or even or the prelim or whatever, wherever it is they want to debut. But that's just because I just don't go fast. And nowadays, it's like I have my job, and then and then when I get home, it's like I'm with my kids, and then by the time they're in bed, I want to just spend time with my wife or
Yeah.
go to sleep or have dinner or whatever. And so those times that I can dedicate to arranging it's harder to figure out.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah. So to answer your question, um, I don't market myself too much because mostly just from a time thing, from an efficiency standpoint. And I think if I were just doing that full time, then I would do it, then I would want to be like, let me try to
Right.
get tons of arrangements out there. And that's not to say like the guys do arrange that do arrange a ton of stuff. I mean, you see Patrick Alexander churns out 20 new charts a year. I don't even know if those are numbers. Dan Wessler, Melody Hine, and it's like I think Melody does that for like a full-time thing. Patrick has another job, his main full-time job doing that. I think
Hmm.
Dan does the same thing, plus Westminster and all that. So I think of those folks, and I'm like, um, I don't know how they're fitting us all in without going full time, like guys like Cole and guys like and I don't even know who else does this full time. Melody does this full time, and so
Hmm.
um but if I weren't but then I think if I'm doing this full time, would I still be enjoying it or would it be like a job to me, a stressful like would I be able to handle that as like, oh, if I don't finish this, I don't get paid or I don't get to eat or
Right.
whatever. Um and so I've thought about that a couple times. But so the way I do it right now is like I get to just work on a couple projects that I feel really passionate and excited about and can kind of pour a lot of creativity into. And, and that might mean, I had one debut in Denver this year, and that was
Hmm.
fine with me, I would love to have 30 or whatever, but I had one that I really liked, and then
Hmm.
we tweaked one that No One Sings Higher Than Me that First Take did, like we rewrote the lyrics and stuff, and it was like, okay, cool. I got my foot in the door for international this year, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'll try to get two or three next year. But it's kind of a long-winded way of saying I have to limit myself, or I will disappoint a lot of people more than I
Sure.
have in times past. And that's a bummer, because this is all supposed to be fun, but at the same time, like people are relying on you, to get something done for them for a certain time frame.
Hmm.
Um, anyway,
Yeah. That was a great answer. Very cool to hear about that. So I wanted to ask, speaking of No One Sings Higher Than Me, I figured I'd ask about a few of the arrangements just because,
sure, yeah,
a lot of this stuff is really fun and very popular, and a lot of them are very popular on the BHS YouTube channel too, and everyone sort of knows about them, kind of reaching audiences past just barbershop, which is a great thing, obviously. So I
yeah.
wanted to ask about some of these arrangements. So for No One Sings Higher Than Me, kind of how did they come about? Did you reach out to them, they reached out to you, and then what happened when you ended up changing it for this year? What was the whole process like?
For that song, somebody had posted it on just on a barbershop Facebook group, I think. And they're like, "Oh, listen to this. This is not for the intention, if I remember the post right, for like somebody should do this, but just like, oh, this has like fun tenory for party type things going on." And, maybe it was like one of those where like, oh, that'd be funny if somebody did this or whatever. And I want to say maybe it was for a different song, but I want to say for this song, again, I might be retconning like how this goes. I might be just making memories up. I am 75% sure I messaged the guy and said, "Hey, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to do this. I just like this a lot. I think this would lend itself really, really well to barbershop. Were you going to do this?" He wasn't an arranger. He's a barbershopper. Are you going to do this for yourself or get something, and B, would you mind just taking the post down? Like, I don't want anyone to see this song. Not realizing because on the link to YouTube, it only had like 10,000 views, but I didn't realize that it had already gone viral on Facebook. You know how Facebook has their own videos. It was like more than 1 million views or whatever. So
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, nobody's seen this yet. Can we just like knock this down? This was like in 2020 or something like that. And as we got back in international, nobody had done it. Nobody had talked about doing it or whatever. So, I don't remember how the conversation was with First Take in that we talked about arranging. I think I had told them, I'd love to do something for you guys. It might have been at the same time as saying, I've got this song and it's about a bunch of people who sing really high. And I know Andrew can sing high because we had done tags like at Midwinter and that it came out that that was like his secret power, that he has
Hmm.
these high B's and A's and C's and stuff. And then of course you hear Alex and all the viral tag clips, probably on your
Hmm.
dang channel too, and it's like, oh, this guy can do anything. Not to mention, of course, if you've even met Anthony or Drew, you knew that they could match that as well. So it's like,
Hmm.
listen to the song. We'd have to change a bunch of stuff because it's pretty specific to those guys and pretty specific to Broadway. But I think if we can tweak this to be barbershop related, this would be crazy. And
Yeah.
it was either Alex or Drew who told me, he was like, they were like, this seems like a lot of fun. We're not funny. And I'm like, that's okay. I was like, let me figure that out. You just sing it really well.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote a bunch of lyrics. I would send it to them. I kind of sent them a couple drafts. There were some lyrics that are like a little more risque than what ended up in the final copy. And they were like, we really think this is funny, but we're already a little outside of our comfort zone doing this. So if we can just, and if I really wanted to, I really could have tried to convince them, just to be like, just tell this joke that is kind of off color. But it was already enough to be kind of like, all right, just do a funny song. Because part of it too is it was like they were coming off the year. Midtown had just won. They did this huge comedy number, but also First Take was going viral because they were singing high and they were doing these bawling tags and everything like that and full voicing these C's. And so I was like, okay, I think we can mix the two. We're not going to try to catch lightning in a bottle, um, like with Spider Farm, but I think we can kind of leverage that a little bit without it trying to seem like we're copying the whole
Yeah.
thing about it. And so anyway, we kind of talked through that a lot, and they would present some alternate lyrics. Alex actually does a pretty good job at that. He would say, "What if we said it like this?" And I think a lot with those parody lyrics, the point is find a rhyme, find a punchline, keep it in the meter so it still sounds like you're talking about it instead of like the syllabifications on the wrong stress. And he was really good at that too. So he would just be like, okay, we've got, what about this idea? That's a little
Hmm.
more in line with the four guys, as people know us, like just kind of like, and it's like, yeah, this works. Because when I see First Take, I think just kind of like four nice dudes who are
Yeah.
who are not here to like upset the status quo or whatever. But I always try to sneak in stuff like that. But anyway, that's a long way of saying we went through the lyrics and then finally they kind of went through the learning process of it, and they said, we're going to meet with Eddie Holt and David McEachern and get like some performance type stuff and just get like some of these punchlines down. So that's fine. They would come back with some different ideas, and then we kind of update the lyrics. And they're such clinicians, First Take. Like they're such um almost like engineers. They're so smart. They're so
Hmm.
smart. And so I knew that. And so they showed me kind of a preview copy of when they first debuted it at Harmony College East, the one that's like in the Mid-Atlantic District.
Hmm. Okay.
And they showed me a video and I go, and it went really well. And I go, this is um, super funny. This went really well. If you don't mind, I've got a couple suggestions. And I sent them like 15 bullet points or something like that. And then I didn't hear back from them. They're like, okay, great. Well, and this was like 2 weeks before International.
Wow.
And then I watched them debut it at International, and they had done all that stuff they'd worked on, and probably 14 of the 15 bullet points I sent them. And
Wow.
I talked to them after. I was like, "You guys incorporate all this stuff." They're like, "Yeah." And that's kind of how you had to work with them, was just be like, "If you do this, you will get 1 point. If you do this, you will get a half point." And that's just, that's kind of the way they operated. So, because again, that they'll tell you, like we're just not a comedy quartet. We're not funny dudes. And it's like, okay, then if you just let everyone else tell you exactly what to do where, I'll put some lyrics in. It sounds like they were working with some of the performance coaches or whatever. Then
Hmm.
just follow those steps and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's not to say it wasn't organic. Like you go and watch the video and it feels really organic, like they had done it before.
Hmm.
That's a testament to their work ethic, to
Yeah.
to be like, oh my gosh. Well, Anthony calls me up a few months before. He's like, I'm gonna fall on my back. What did he say? It wasn't like that. It was like, no, he left me a voicemail, and it was something to the tune of, "Hey, just letting you know, we're gonna kind of copy the KJ falling thing from Midtown last year. I'm working, I'm working with a wrestling coach, and I'm just gonna learn how to fall. Anyway, let me know if you have any problems with that or whatever. I don't even know if any problems, but I think maybe he just, or if you have any suggestions or ideas." And I remember listening to that, and I go, "That sounds hilarious. You're just gonna fall?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fall on my I'm gonna fall on my back." I'm like, "All right, man, I don't know anything about getting a silver medal, so just do whatever you want to do." I don't know. Sounds hilarious. If you can find a way to do whatever it is you're envisioning without killing yourself, then go for it.
Yeah.
And that worked, so stuff like that that was born out of idea I had nothing to do with. In fact, my bit there was basically just like, oh, I think it'd be funny if Drew, who's in the position of where KJ was, everybody kind of looks at him to fall, and then I was like, I think it'd be funny if you started to fall forward like into the pit, into the judges, and they caught you like, don't do that, you'll die. Like that's not how this goes, something along those lines. I
Mhm.
was like, that'll probably take a little bit of practice or whatever, but I think that'd be pretty funny. They're like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Not realizing that the thing they ended up doing would take probably hours of practice for Anthony.
Yeah.
But I think he had said, or maybe Drew had said, that he was like talking with this like wrestling instructor. He's like, I just want to do this as safely as possible. And that the instructor was just like, I need to stop you right there. You keep using that word. Like, there's nothing safe about this. And he's like, okay. But I mean, this guy's committed to it. I wish they had fallen this year. I think at some point you have to go, I can't carry that dang like armor or whatever it was he was wearing. I don't know
Yeah.
what he was doing, but anyway, I know I'm kind of talking on their behalf on a couple of these things, but the story is so funny. Just like how all the little bits and pieces kind of came to be. Because again, it just started like, oh, I first of all, I think you guys can do this song. It's a song about singing higher, and all four of you can do that. And second of all, I think if we change the lyrics around, we can make it work. And then it just kind of turned into this project. But I think that's where like the coolest things turn out to be. It's just stuff that just where the ideas keep flowing and from your team and whoever it is that's working with you and from the four guys inside, and just stepping out of your comfort zone. Like I don't know, I'm sure there are other yeah, there would have been other quartets that could do that. Probably even like Newfangled.
Mhm.
But I think that was what was cool about First Take doing that is because that's the stuff that was kind of going viral for them, or even just getting a lot of hits from
Yeah.
barbershoppers was like, we're just gonna watch it. I don't care what videos out there. We're just gonna rewatch the tags on these a bunch of times. Okay,
Yeah.
because they're singing high. It's like, all right, we can jump off of that for a year or two in terms of the
Mhm.
song.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Well, that's awesome. I also wanted to ask about "Where Do You Belong?"
oh yeah,
The GQ song when they sang in 2022, I believe. So, what was that like? What was that? Uh, did they approach you about that because they're like, we want to do something funny for this kind of thing? What was that whole thing like?
I think that was also similar where I was like, I think I've got, I know you're going to be coming to BHS for the first time, like competing BHS for the first time, but you've been around for a long time. But this will be kind of the first time, you'd be allowed to compete here. And I think even before that, it was like, I would just like to I think it'd be fun to do an uptune for you guys or do some sort of song for you guys.
Mhm.
And then I found that just listening to musicals and just listening to things. And one of the things I like about that song is it starts kind of slow and then it builds up. And that's like auto development. That's like
Yeah.
free development that I don't have to worry about trying to like
Right.
arrange or figure out. So that's one of the things I like about that song. I was like, oh, I think the original song is from Mean Girls and it's Where Do We Belong? And it's
Mhm.
where do I belong? Where do we belong? It's about the new girl in school or whatever. It's like, I think we can do this. You can kind of take a tour around barbershop and see where you fit in. And so I reached out to them about that idea and they seemed on board with it. So it's kind of a similar thing. I think a lot of these, it's tricky. Like sometimes a group will come to me and they're like, we have an idea for this song and it'll just click right away. And I'm like, of course, I want to arrange this. I would love to arrange this. I know exactly what you're talking about here, and I think we could do this. Or they'll come to me with a song that they all really like and they all really agree with. And I go, I get it, or I don't know. This isn't something I would have found. I'll do it. I think that's part of like not doing this full time. If I was doing this full time, it would be like, I'll do whatever. I'll do anything and
Yeah.
everything. And just doing this kind of not even part-time, part-time's not even the right word, but just kind of small time where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll spend some time finding a song that really speaks to me because the time it takes me to do it just takes up family time or home time or
Yeah.
whatever. So I want this to be something that I'm going to be real jacked about the whole while I'm arranging it and while I'm waiting for it to be debuted or whatever.
Mhm.
And that was one of those songs, because I thought it'd be a cool thing and a cool message and stuff. And
Yeah.
it had a pretty good hit at international and um, so yeah, that's kind of how that put together. I think we went back and forth a couple times on ranges and
Mhm.
like what kind of story we wanted to tell, same thing. And what kind of lyrics we wanted to incorporate and what. But the first time I had heard it was like the night before I was up there, I went to to one of the rehearsals and we just kind of like talked through some of the stuff, but you can only make so many changes the night before without it
Right.
being like a big thing. It's a little bit more of a mindset game or whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Great. I wanted to ask about one more, which was Stonehenge,
Yeah.
that Newfangled 4 did, and that was such a great treat. I think they sang it twice, as international at least twice. And I think it was so awesome, and I just wanted to hear, how that kind of thing started.
That was one of those songs I heard like when Elvis was getting big, like stateside, and they had just done What Does a Fox Say? And then after that, I think Stonehenge was one of the and I don't know like how much of those other songs went viral here in the US,
Mhm.
but I remember the same thing where it's like I love this humor, I love the absurdity. Same thing like when I say same thing, like same thing with Newfangled 4, for example,
Yeah.
just when I was first starting to write for them. And with Stonehenge, I listened to that and I was in the car. I almost had to pull over because of how hard I was belly laughing at the absurdity of that song, especially when they get to the part about I would give them my car and what car do you drive? And it's a Civic. And I was like, I love this. I wish I had come up with something like this. But I remember listening to the song and kind of like, oh, but there's some major chords in there and there's some kind of surprises in there. That would be that's the first thing I do when I hear a new song is like, is there
Yeah.
some harmonic variety? And so this kind of combined that. So I always just try to keep that in my back pocket. I arranged it for my own quartet, and I think we ended up breaking up about the time that we started learning it. And so then at one point, Newfangled was asking me for something, and it was one of those situations where I was like, it was a couple months later, I was like, I haven't gotten started on this. I can't seem to get behind. I can't seem to come up with the right ideas for this thing that we're looking at. And they were like, okay, that's fine. We're getting a little bit close to contest. They had plenty to back up or whatever, but it was one of those
Sure.
where I knew when I wasn't going to be able to do it that I needed to provide, like, I have an alternative for you instead of just like, I'm leaving you high and dry.
Hmm.
I was like, I have this thing, it's Stonehenge. I don't know, go take a listen. And I'll kind of rewrite it, and just work in some different gags. And not even really the gags. I think I mostly just kind of rearranged it to add like 10% more barbershop chords in there than the original,
Yeah.
And oh my God, when they learned it and watching, and that song had come out 10 years before then, or at least that's the first time I heard it. So watching it live and watching the people like laughing at all the absurdity for the first time for them was awesome for me because it reminded me of listening to that for the first time. And I still laugh at the song 10 years later or whatever, 12 years later, but there's nothing like not knowing what you're going in for.
Yeah.
And everybody knows when they're singing the ballad-esque intro, something's going to happen. They just don't know what it is. They don't know
Hmm.
what's going on. And that's kind of a fun part of these songs. Is
Yeah.
not stuff necessarily that I arrange, but any of these songs that have like a surprise in them like that. I love watching people light up. Like, okay, song's about Stonehenge, all right, because in the back of their mind too, they're like, well, what else? Oh, okay, so are we doing kind of a song about like all the seven wonders and stuff, or like what's the song going to be about? And then verse two, and then chorus two is like, we're back to Stonehenge.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then just watching the absurdity ravel. I think it was Joey that texted me. It was after they sang it for AO8. No, no, no. Why did they sing in St. Louis? Or was it maybe it was Acapalooza or something like that? God, I should start remembering these stories. But they performed it. They performed it for ambassadors.
Mm.
Did they? I'll simplify it. I know they at least performed it for David Wright. So it was either in front of ambassadors or it was in front of Westminster, and David Wright was in the audience for that. I don't remember. But that the gist of it was that David goes up to me and he goes, I don't know what that was about, but I laughed so hard. It's something like the story was something like that. And Joey texts me that and I go, oh, then I think we're onto something here. Like if we
Yeah.
made David laugh, and not that he's like impossible to make laugh, it's just like I don't picture David seeking out the song Stonehenge on his own. You know what I mean? So if we've got just
Yeah.
somebody that's, you know, that's hearing this for the first time, or this style of absurdity or whatever the first time, and is cracking up about it, like I think we're gonna be on to something international.
Yeah.
That was awesome to be in the audience for, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
just
That's
fun.
great.
I was
And that,
reminded the other day by Scott Hale from Clutch. I can't remember what we were talking about, but he was like, ah, that's what we get for turning down Stonehenge. I was like, that's right. I pitched it to you guys, and you blew it, baby. Sorry.
yeah.
Now you've got all these other amazing songs.
Wait, I was gonna say,
Whoops.
speaking of Clutch, they had the "If You're Happy and You Know It," which you arranged, and it has the that intro, which I think has been different, for a few different of the times, doing like a different intro, which is fun because then it's like, oh, they're doing a ballad. Oh no, it's the same song. And as soon as they're like, "If you're happy," everyone's like, so you hear the audience like a few of them who know start to
Ugh.
laugh. It's a good time.
I love that yeah, you can pick out one or two people laughing in the first song at the very end of that intro, like of the break. And
Yeah,
then maybe a couple hundred laughing, but not everybody this and the second time they brought it around.
yeah,
They knew they were being sort of duped again, I think.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah, anyway,
It's a
it's
great
pretty
time.
funny.
Okay, just
That's fun.
to wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Um, so just sort of throwing them out there. What's your favorite animal?
A doggy.
What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
Would you ever go skydiving?
No. Wait,
Um,
I know it's rapid fire. I want to have gone skydiving. I don't want to go through the process of it, but I'd love to
right,
say I did it. Okay,
that makes
back to
sense.
rapid fire.
And what's your go-to snack? Different than
Pizza.
food. Okay, that also works. Uh,
I'm pretty boring, I think. Dog and a pizza.
and last but not least, what's the meaning of life?
The doggy.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense.
Hold on. What's the meaning of life? Oh, the meaning of life is to find purpose, and that purpose is often serving others
Dogs. Okay,
and dogs and serving dogs.
right,
Serve other humans and serve dogs, but don't serve humans to dogs.
right.
Yeah, I just came
You
up
heard
with
it here
that.
first. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been an awesome conversation. For anyone who's watching, I'm going to be linking a lot of videos of his arrangements and stuff and various places you can find him. So you have all the information in the description and maybe like a video bonus track or something. Um,
Oh, cool.
we'll see. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. This has been awesome. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate it, man.
But I think it's still a cool thing to have people, be directed here and to see, what you're about and stuff. Because, no one ever asks anything about you in the live stream. So, um,
They never ask how I'm doing.
exactly. They're never like, what part do you sing? And do you want to shout anyone out? They never say that.
You're right.
Um,
You're right.
yeah. I'll ask you now, beautiful clip. What part do you sing?
I sing bass.
Nice. And do you want to
And
shout anyone out?
no, not particularly. No, I'm kidding. I would love to shout
Oh.
my wife out, Stephanie, and my beautiful children, Liam and Kate, and only those three people.
Good, because you have to go back to the stage. So,
Oh, ah.
yeah. All right. Well,